Hello and welcome to another Every Tuesday tutorial. In this week's tutorial, I'm going to walk you through 5 different gel pen lettering projects that anyone can do. So if you've never used gel pens before, if you're a beginner with hand lettering, totally fine. You'll be able to follow along and complete these exactly. So what you see on screen is what we're going to be creating together. So we're just going to jump in and get started. This sketch pad that I'm using is the Arteza brand sketch pad, and this one is 11 inches by 14 inches. And I've got a sheet already cut out right here for us to use, so I'm going to set this aside. And the gel pens that we're using, I've got a full set of my Sakura Jelly Roll gel pens, but we're only going to be using the Moonlight and the Metallic. And I'm also using a white gel pen, but you can use yellow instead from the Moonlight collections. So those are all we're going to be using for these projects. So I'm going to pull those gel pens right now, and we'll start with the first project. Okay, so for the first project, we're going to create this glow effect right here. It's kind of like a neon sign effect. And we're going to be using the Moonlight Jelly Roll gel pens. And the Moonlight ones just have a little moon on their caps, so that's how you can tell what they are. And they come in 2 different sizes. There's an 08 size and an 06 size. So for this one, we're going to be using the 08 of the lime green one. So these are my lime green, and I've got my 08 right here. We'll use the smaller tips later on for 2 of the other projects. So I'm going to set these aside. And then these ones are the metallic colors that I'm going to be using, but you can use any metallic colors that you'd like. This one will be for our blending effects. All right, so for the glow effect, I also have the 08 size white. The white Jelly Roll gel pens now come in a bunch of different sizes, which is awesome. But for this one, we're going to use the 08 size. That way you can see it really well. And I also have a mechanical pencil that I really like using for these, and a click eraser. That way it kind of operates just like a writing utensil. It's really easy to erase away anything that you need to. So for this one, we're going to utilize our pencil first just to lay down the groundwork of what we need. So I'm just going to write the word glow, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so with this effect, you want to space your letters out a comfortable amount. You don't want them too tight together, otherwise the effect won't look as good. So right now we've got our base lettering all set, and now we need to do an outline around it. So a really easy way to put a consistent outline around your letters is you just start tracing around the outside, and whatever space you choose to have around the outside of your base lettering line, you want the same space around the inside, and that will give you a consistent block letter effect. All right, so I've got my outline around all of my letters, and now I can start going in with my gel pen. So the first thing I'm going to do is just follow along my base lettering with my white gel pen. All right, so once you do this, I actually like thickening this up even more. So I'll come in and I will do another line or 2 around this base lettering. All right, so now that that's all set, we're going to grab our green Moonlight Jelly Roll gel pen, and we're just going to come around the outline that we drew before. Okay, so once that's all set, now we're going to come back to our white gel pen, and we're just going to do a wavy line that touches the edge of our green line and just comes up and down all the way around. Okay, once you have that done, now we're going to come back to our green, and we're going to touch wherever this top bump comes up, we're going to touch it and kind of connect it, like connecting the dots. Okay, and then we're just going to finish everything off by one more round of wavy white lines all the way around, and that'll kind of give it that radiation effect that you see with neon signage. Okay, so that is project number 1, kind of a neon glow effect. Okay, so the next project we're going to create together is this fade effect. So what we have is a drop shadow. That's a floating drop shadow. I like calling it a floating drop shadow because it doesn't connect to the first letter. There's space between each one of these lines, and it kind of looks like it's going off into oblivion as it fades down because of the angle that we have it at. So I have a cheat sheet for you if you're not sure where to place your shadows when it comes to placing shadows on your letters. colors. I created this handy cheat sheet. Oh, and all the links to all the supplies and along with this freebie is right in the video description. So just click there and you can download this and have access to all the supplies that I'm using right here. Okay, so this freebie is a highlight and shadow cheat sheet. We don't really need the highlight one for this project, but we do need the shadow. So what you want to look at is where the blue hits on all these letters. If you've got script, and then I've got an uppercase sans serif right here. So for my F, you can see this is where all the shadows are hitting. So if you're ever unsure, just reference the sheet and you'll know exactly where to put your shadows, so you can do any word that you want. All right, so I'm going to set that aside and we're going to create our fade shadow effect. Okay, and just like we did with our glow effect, we're going to make these blocky letters. So you're just going to come around, same amount of space that you put on one side, put on the other side. Okay, and for this I'm going to grab my gold metallic gel pen and I'm just going to color in my block letters so they stand out really well against the black. Okay, now that we are all set, you want to make sure this one dries all the way because it's really easy to smudge the metallic ones because they stay wet a lot longer than the other gel pens. So I'm going to grab the 06 size of my gel pens, the Moonlight ones. So you can tell right away. You can see there's an 06 right here and there's nothing right here. So this is the larger size. So I'm going to grab the blue, I'm going to grab a purple, a yellow, and my greens. All right, I got my yellow too. So I'm going to go with the brightest so it matches the metallic right here, and then it's going to get darker because it's going further away. So it makes sense for me to end with purple instead of starting with purple. So I'm going to gradually go darker. All right, so I've got my yellow, and the first thing you want to do is just come in here, follow that cheat sheet if you're not sure where to put your shadows, and you just want to leave a little bit of space between the letter and where you put your shadows so they're not touching. And you want to do your best, whatever space you decide that it's going to be from your letter, you want to keep that consistent across all of your letters as you add in these shadows. So the trick to this project is every time you add another line, you want to go down just a little bit. So if this is where my yellow starts all the way up at the top, I just want to knock down my next color just slightly. And if I kept it the same the whole way, you wouldn't get that nice angled effect that you get with this project. You can see that I've matched it right here on the edge, but where I begin it, you want it to start right at that angle. Since this is in the middle of the letter, it won't have that shift, but up at the top of the letter and at the bottom of the letter, you'll see that shift. Okay, on to the next color, and I'm just repeating the exact same thing. So each color, it's just going to shift a little bit more each time. Okay, so that is the fade project with the floating shadow that changes color as it goes further down and to the right. All right, so moving on to our next project. Our next project is the stippling effect, where it's kind of these invisible letters that are created with the shadows of the stippling that we're going to put in. So we're going to use similar colors that we just used, but this time we're going to use the larger size pen tips. So instead of these 06, we're going to use the 08s. All right, so I've pulled out all of my larger size pen tips. I don't know if we're going to go through all of these colors, but we've got them all right here and available to us if we need them. And I'm also using this cheat sheet that I have. Once again, the link's in the video description, totally free, you can download it. So this will show you how to make the block letters for this technique. And where the block is, that's where we're going to stipple in our color, and then we'll erase away our regular outlines of our letters. So everything will look, you know, pretty cool right here with the stippling. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the glow and with the fade. We're going to draw out our letters, we're going to create block letters out of them, and then we're going to add 3D to them so they become 3D block letters. So when you're creating your 3D effect on these, just reference the sheet and just look at the direction and where all the lines are hitting. So you just want to make sure that whatever length you decide to do your 3D at, just make sure it's consistent across all of your letters, or as close to consistent as you can make them. I know it can be hard to do that. All right, once you have your 3D letters all set, we're going to start stippling in. I like keeping my darker colors on the underside of my letters. So the underside of this H, the bottom of the H, the underside of the E, all these places I like keeping my darker colors, and then I'll stipple up with my brighter colors towards the top. So I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to keep kind of a mixture of blue and purple in my underside. So I'm just going to put some dots in here. And then I'm going to come in with my purple and just fill in the rest of that shape. All right, and then for the E, we're going to do the exact same thing, and I'll speed up the video. Okay, so now we're moving on to our next colors, and I like just keeping it kind of like a rainbow. So I'll come in with my next color. Okay, and now moving on to my yellow, and I'm just going to continue adding in some dots until all of my 3D block areas are filled up. All right, so we're going to wait for this to fully dry, and then we'll erase away our pencil marks, and then you'll be able to see that invisible lettering effect. All right, so we're just going to move on while that dries, and the next effect we're going to do is this pretty lettering right here. So we're filling up our letters with different doodles. So I'm going to show you how to lay out your lettering, and then we'll fill it in with some really basic doodles. If you're not an illustrator, no problem. I am not an illustrator either. These are just doodles, so anyone can do them. So what we're going to do is grab our pencil, and you're just going to write out whatever word you want. I'm just going to keep to my example with writing the word pretty. Okay, so you can just use this as your base if you'd like. If you'd like to take it a little bit further, you can add thicker downstrokes to it. So by downstrokes, I mean when you're writing out your word, whenever your writing utensil goes in a downward position, that's your downstroke. Up is your upstroke. So whenever you have a downstroke, you want a thicker stroke. So that kind of gives you the faux calligraphy look that's really popular these days. So for this, I'm just going to fake my thickness right here. So these are going to be my guidelines for when I'm filling them in with doodles. I'm just giving myself some extra thickness around here. This is totally optional. If you don't feel comfortable doing this, you definitely don't need to do it. You can just have that mono weight look of just a single line for your doodles. So now what you're going to do is grab your smaller tipped gel pens. These are the Moonlight ones. Once again, I'm going to set the larger ones aside, and what you're going to do is just choose a few colors to create your doodles with. So I'm going to use green because I'm going to put in like some leafy elements, and then I'm going to have some flower elements too. So first I'm going to add in my flowers since they're going to be larger. So these ones are really, really basic flowers. They're just 5 lines. They're like little stars, and you want to make sure they're following inside of the lines that you drew. Okay, and in the centers of each of these, you're just going to put one little orange dot. And then I'm going to grab my pink, and I'm going to do some other flowers. So this one's kind of like a scribble flower. It almost looks like a little pom-pom. And now we're just going to fill the rest of it in with different leaves. So I'm going to come in with my lime green first, and any empty spaces, you're just going to start filling it in with a bunch of leaves. Okay, and then I don't think I need my blue, but I do want to come in with my gold, and I'm just going to put some dots here and there just to add a little bit of shine to the whole piece. And we're going to let that dry before we erase away our pencil marks. So I'm going to erase away these pencil marks. This one's all dry so we can see what this project finished up looking like. All right, so that looks pretty cool. I love that kind of invisible effect that we've got going on. All right, so we're going to wait for this one to dry, and while that's drying, we're going to move on to our last project. So what you want for this last project are your metallic gel pens. This works best with the metallic because they stay wet for a while, and since we're blending colors together, you want to make sure that they're wet. That way you get that really nice smooth blend. If we had some of the Moonlight ones, which dry a lot faster, it's much more difficult to blend them together. So I'll take off all the caps of these because I want to keep switching between them as I go as fast as I can. I'm actually going to grab my purple. So I'm going to write out blend. Okay, and we can make our downstrokes a little thicker once again if we want to do that. So now what you want to do is figure out kind of the order that you want them to go in. So I'm going to do gold and then lime green, my next teal color, blue, and then purple. And you can change these up as you go. You don't have to keep them in a row every single time, but I like starting that way and then I'll change it up as I get through the word. That way it doesn't look too repetitive as it goes along. So I'm going to start with my gold and I'm just going to start right at the very end and pull down a line. And while it's still wet, I'm going to quickly change to my next color, and I'm going to start the next color right inside of the previous color. So bring that down, and then I'm going to start this one. I make my colors go just a little bit further than I need them to go. That way I can blend into the next color. So this will go up a little higher than I normally would because then I'm going to add my blue further down into it. And just come up and then move to purple. And now that I'm at purple, I'm going to go back to my dark blue. And then to my teal. And then I can go back to my dark blue if I want. And purple. You just want to make sure that the colors that you mix together go together. So I don't want to do like purple and gold because that wouldn't mix very well, or purple and green wouldn't look very good. But now that I've got my dark blue, I can mix it with my light green because they'll still mix really well. And then I can finish it off with gold down here. Okay, so that is the blended gel pen lettering effect. And just make sure you're using metallic gel pens for that once again. Now that this is all dry, I can erase away my pencil marks for this one. Okay, so that is 5 gel pen lettering projects that anyone can do. Once again, the links to all the supplies are right in the video description. You can also grab those 2 free cheat sheets, the 3D block letters and then the shadow and highlight cheat sheet, so you know where to put those shadows. And if you want to add in highlights later on, then you have that cheat sheet as well. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can be notified of new lettering tutorials like this in the future. I release a new tutorial every single Tuesday. You can also find me over at every-tuesday.com for more lettering tutorials and freebies. I'm also on Instagram. My handle is @everytuesday. If you decide to try any of these, please tag me. I'd love to see it and show it some love. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next week.